Hey guys, it's Clovis, and today we are going to learn how to rally drive. I have no idea how good or bad this tutorial will be, but needed to get all the rally golds anyways, and I'm sure a lot of people want to know how to properly rally drive in this game, and again, I'm no expert. I like to think that it's nicer to teach you guys from a realistic perspective of someone who's not just innately superiorly talented. I have played the game a lot, and the only real advice I can offer, other than what I'm going to talk about across the whole video, is to practice a lot. You wouldn't think, but just getting these inputs down, cornering, and just learning how to react after you know what to do is key. So the first part of learning how to drive with anything is basically knowing what you're supposed to do, and then the second part is just doing it as consistently as possible. So this video is going to focus on that first part. I'm going to basically tell you what to do, what you can do, because it's not very clear what like the limits of the car are until you start pushing yourself. Luckily, in time trials like this, for example, in Rally 1, if you fail by crashing into the wall, you can just restart, and it's only a few seconds before you're at the corner again. Quickly, before we finally go into R1, I will say that most of these aren't actually too immensely difficult. I would say Rally 4 is one of the tighter ones. Rally 2 is also quite tight, but it's not as difficult. Rally 5, again, once you know what to do, you can do it a lot easier than you would think. It's just a matter of knowing exactly what you're supposed to do at the corners. But that's pretty much what Rally is here to teach you, you know. You don't really know exactly what you're doing until you push the limits of the car and get the gold, and you're like, oh, so rally cars can do this. That's pretty cool. Rally 6 is notorious for being one of the hardest tests in the game. I would say it is the hardest in Rally, which seems weird because Rally 8 is actually a full lap, but because it's a full lap, it's one of those tests. It's actually a lot more generous. So even though, you know, you need to do a whole lap consistently, there's a bit more room for error and just wiggle room in general than a test like R6. R7 is also not too easy, but if you can do R6 gold, you can do R7 gold. Alright, so, rally driving basics. So in the early tests, like even B, it will tell you how you're supposed to take a corner, and this is supposed to tell you how to take a corner in a rally car. A wide corner like this, you can use the dirt to slip your car off, like as you can see in the demo, which may crash out due to a desync bug. But there you go. So you're basically going to repeat this. You are going to go full throttle, and you want to be on the exit as wide as possible. Turn in, and just keep turning in. And if you hit the wall, obviously you fail, but here's the thing, if you slow down, you will not make the gold anyway. So if you're trying to get gold, you should definitely take risks. If you're going for bronze, I mean, just let go of the throttle is a good way of going about it. My car set out so there won't be a gold. Oh, it is a gold, cool. So yeah, let's have a look at the replay quickly to just see, get a better grasp of the inputs of what we're supposed to do. Because the inputs, the telemetry is actually very important for any test. Like, if I'm trying to demonstrate or show you what you're supposed to do, then absolutely I am going to show you the inputs. It's easy for me to say you just hold the accelerator the whole time, but there's also a reaction element to all the tests and driving in general. If you are slightly off, you have to kind of correct it on the fly. So let's just have a quick look at it so you can see what's up. So the replay options, I'm going to turn on this and this. So yeah, at the bottom left you can see my steering, and you can see the accelerator and the brake. And again, just remember, I don't brake at all. You can see that I let go of the accelerator, and the reason why I do that is simply to let the car turn more. In a four-wheel drive car, there is some power on the front wheels, and from what I know, for rally cars, the all-wheel drive, it is basically a 50-50 split, so it's quite a considerable amount of power to the front wheels, which... You know, front wheels are what steer the car all the time. It doesn't matter what drive it is. If you're confused about the drivetrain, what it means when it says rear-wheel drive is that's where the power is going, is that the rear wheels. In a four-wheel drive car, you have power on the front and rear wheels, you know, so that your car is balanced on the dirt. But what this means is that, especially on the road, if you're accelerating and you try to steer, you don't have as much grip on the front wheels to steer because they're constantly spinning forward because of the power being pushed to them. So if I let go of the accelerator, my car is very comfortable turning. There's no interference with the front wheels. The car just steers. And once your car is positioned where you want it to be, especially when it's like pointed directly towards the corner, or in this example, after the tarmac, when you're back on the dirt, you can reapply the power and keep turning during it. And that's when your car, you know, your car's sliding around quite comfortably on the dirt as a rally car is supposed to be. Again, all of these challenges in the rally are in a rally car, so you can trust your car to do its job right. It's mostly up to you to drive efficiently. It's not like some of the previous tests where they're kind of teaching you how to drive a crappy car or something. This is all just like, here's a rally car. It's up to you to do the test correctly. But it's kind of, there's some peace of mind in knowing that it's all down to your execution and knowing your car is drivable. Now, R2 seems a bit complex. The focus here is getting your line. So again, we don't need to brake. Maybe towards the end, you may need to let go of the accelerator to help the car steer. And what you're watching now is a desync bug, so that demonstration is clearly useless. So let's try and do it ourselves. So what the game's trying to tell you, or what you're trying to grasp, is a relationship between accelerating and turning. There's like a happy medium between the two where your car is driving optimally. You don't want too much of one or the other. You can also steer in a bit preemptively, but there I definitely made a mistake, obviously, so we try again. For example, if you can even hear the car sliding. And you can see when you turn, you want to counter steer after you turn to straighten your car up. Which again, you'll see in the replay and telemetry a lot more, so try and turn it a bit sharply here so that we don't go too wide and smash into that wall. Even touching the wall slightly will kill some of your speed, so you got to be quite careful. This probably won't make the gold either. Ooh, it did! I don't know. Maybe it's good if I say that. It gives me a bit of luck at the end. So of course, I do apologize if this video isn't heavily edited or anything. I did just want to make like something easy to do, easy to digest. So I am trying to pepper some words in the breaks when I'm loading everything. Of course, you can just press the right key, the right arrow key on your keyboard to skip forward to the replay. So again, quickly pay attention. We're holding the accelerator basically the entire time. What I want you to pay attention to is the steering. You'll see that you steer into the corner a little bit earlier than you'd think because your car tends to literally drift across the dirt, as you know, it's dirt, it's not tarmac. But then your car will like stay in that drift unless you do something about it. And what you want to do is counter steer so that your car just starts driving in a straight line. So yeah, pay attention to the steering mostly rather than the accelerator brake, because that accelerator is just going to be on the whole time. And that's again a nice lesson for anyone, even going for bronze. It's like, if you don't need to brake, just don't. Because that is where you're going to lose a lot of your time. Most people, if you're struggling with bronzes, it's mostly... It's not because you're bad, it's because you don't know what to do. Like, I'm being brutally honest there. So let's just have another look at this before I keep rambling too long. You can see there, I kind of steer in, and then as I'm veering out to the left, I flick the steering back to the left, and now I'm lined up straight, exactly where I want my car to go. So you can just hold the accelerator here. This is probably a better example of what I was saying. You can see that I'm just holding accelerator, not even steering, because my car's just positioned. And I know it sounds dumb, or maybe it's like a bit obvious, but you really do want to maximize your car just going in a straight line forward, because that's obviously faster than accelerating while turning. So basically, being smooth through corners, straightening up early, and just having straight line speed, you're creating your own straight lines when this seems like a really complex, twisty track. You're creating your own straight lines, and that is when you're basically drag racing. And of course, the timer is built around this car, you know. And the only way to gain speed in these sections is to have your car as fast as possible on the exit of a corner. That's the most important part of most of these tests, is your exit speed on every corner. If you exit a corner like 10k slower than the gold, you're going to lose like half a second or something ridiculous, you know, if you're not careful, depending on the length of that straight. And again, you can see my steering is very aggressive. Just again, pay attention to the elevation dip. That's when the weight of your car shifts as you're accelerating. So your car will behave differently, and it might take a bit of practice to get used to. Usually, I think one of the most difficult things to grasp until you're really experienced with the game is elevation dips. The best way to learn is to just basically keep trying and see how your car behaves, especially when you're like turning at a hill. Like it's pretty much the opposite of the corkscrew, where you're forced to turn as the track is like on a downward slope, and that really just fucks the balance of your car entirely. Cool. So that is the gold for R2. I don't think R2 is insanely difficult. So 3, you get a bit more tricky. It's going to basically show you how to do a rally chicane. So this is definitely a bit more tricky than the previous 2, but don't be fully overwhelmed. It's very good practice for you to learn how to throw the car and recover it. So as we approach the chicane, we are basically going to be throwing the car 90 degrees to the left, and then accelerating and counter steering as we go through. So it's a bit tricky. You'll see what I mean as we do it. Don't be too intimidated. You can do it. I mean, at the end of the day, if you keep doing what I'm doing, then eventually you're going to get it. So yeah. So I don't think we'll get the gold here. And definitely too wide here. This is not a good test. It probably will be a bronze, actually. This may take you a few tries to get, even if you're an experienced driver. I have no idea how that was a gold, honestly. But that's probably a good demonstration of how you can do it, even if your line isn't perfect. So, yeah, let's go ahead and have a look at that again. The idea, especially the speed through the first chicane, is fine as long as you're not completely off balance, and you can just send, you just send it home after that. Alright, so straight away I'm steering to the right, and what this is doing is actually making this turn in and out a lot wider. And the wider it is, we can actually carry more speed through the line. If I were to just go completely straight and then, sharply hit the brakes and sharply turn left, I would not really, it would be very crowded. I wouldn't be lined up properly on the exit. I'd be forced to slow down more in order to actually smoothly make the exit. So overall, it's a lot slower that way. So by slightly turning to the right here, I actually have more of an entry. You can kind of see here, the idea is kind of turning in through that way, as opposed to if I was just going straight through here, I'd have to make this corner, I'd have to be a lot slower. I'd have to brake really slow and turn fully sharply. So we're making this corner a bit wider, and then we have more room to have a smooth turn. And so this is what you're looking for, is that flick. Again, look at the bottom left if you need to. But you're basically flicking the car through. You're sending the car through. And then as you're lined up, you can stay on the throttle as I am, and that pushes you through the corner. If you fling your car like this and you're not accelerating in a rally car, it's actually worse if you're not accelerating because, again, you're on dirt. Your car's just going to basically bog. But if you keep your wheels spinning, it's going to help you guide through this corner, especially when the weight of your car's been thrown through like this. So you're getting back on the throttle to help you through the corner is what you want to do. Obviously, the tricky part is going to take you some practice to get this, but you can do it, of course. So yeah, get the flick through, and when you're going through the corner, getting on the throttle is actually a good idea. Remember, this car, like, you're on a rally car, you're going at a decent speed, you're not going to spin out. Just make sure you're ready to counter steer if the car starts drifting off, obviously. Otherwise, you'll be off the line. You just won't get the gold. There I even tapped the wall, but you can see, regardless of tapping the wall, again, my car is actually positioned. Look where it is. This is where we want to go. And the exit is quite wide, so we can actually turn through a little bit early and make this exit quite smooth. But again, this is a concept I was talking about, and it applies to basically all driving, is turning like turns into a straight line, like a drag race for you. This will actually just cuts time out from as opposed to if your car was like full on steering. And again, this concept of rather than slowly turning the whole way through, we flick through and now we're in a straight line. So it's like a drag race till the end. And that's your gold. So now we get to R4. So again, this is tricky. What this is teaching you is actually smoothness, which all tests are doing that. I know I've kind of hammered that point home, but there is nothing else really to this test apart from, again, the relationship between turning and accelerating. Again, this is a desync bug with the emulator, so don't worry about that. I'm going to show you how to do it anyway. Maybe this will take me a lot longer than the other ones, but it will be... I think it's right to show you exactly what's going on. At the end of the day, these license tests, they do have the ghost car that you can compare yourself to. So obviously this is very bad, but it's fine, because we can go back in and practice it again. Didn't even get a silver, but it's fine. It's fine. That was pretty bad. Those 24 seconds went very fast. And again, you can see how much of a meaningful difference it makes when you exit a corner at a higher speed. So even though that run was very bad, we saved like a third of a second. What we're really looking for that I'm not doing is you want to be on the left here so that you can turn it a bit wider. So you should get the silver here. Oh, it's the gold. Good, good, good. Yeah, so... the first two runs, I did not go wide after the first turn, but you really do need to. It's a bit awkward to explain until I get into the replay. But, quickly, I'm going to load in here just to show you. It's hard to see, so I do apologize, but... You can see the chicane here. If you are... Like, I've said this in previous videos before, but the general rule of thumb is that anytime you're taking a turn, you want your car to be on the opposite side of that turn so that you can take it as wide as possible and you cut the apex. And if you do that and you stay wide, on the outside, when you take this first left turn, if you stay on the right side, your car is really not positioned to take the next turns well at all. So you have to steer back to the left, obviously again while keeping things as smooth as possible. Luckily, this game is actually quite good, and it still restored my best replay, even though I went back into the demo. It's a pretty rigid game. Really, really good, like, well-designed, well-programmed game. Very, very rigid. Lots of quality of life stuff in this game, actually. Like, the loading times are fucking insane. Like, I don't know. I think most people take them for granted. If you compare this to, like, Gran Turismo 4, holy shit. Like, seriously, I'd rather just play this game. Oh, the replay's gone. Wait, we load it? I don't think we loaded it. Sorry. And yeah, the date is accurate. I am actually playing this game on New Year's Day. I can't show the demo, because this game actually isn't as good as I thought. So let's just try to gold it again. So sweep in, go out a bit wide. I didn't go wide enough, I don't think. But it's alright, we'll try wide again. Not good enough. I gotta do this for you guys. The game broke because I re-entered the thing after I got the replay. So you're staying wide, and then you can accelerate and turn in like that. That is what I want to show you guys, really, is my goal. I fucked this up though, so that sucks. You know what, I'm going to show you the silver replay, because I want to show you the important part of it. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to get this gold. So yeah, just skip forward if you're sick and tired of this, if you want to see the demonstration. Apologies, but I really thought the game would store my replay. I think there's merit to dropping the throttle actually when cornering. That'll keep the car a lot smoother. As opposed to, say, braking or whatever. Letting go of the throttle and lowering the accelerator might be the play. There it absolutely is. And then you can go in full throttle here. Can you? I don't think you can. You touch the wall, it's over. It was half a tenth. A 20th of the gold after we already got it. I think we actually touched the wall there. Alright, this is good. Perfect. So yeah, sorry about the bullshit. And again, I know I am aware that the demo thing is in the menu, but that is the original replay, which is desynced. So there's no point watching that. It'll just crash into the wall. And now we have a replay. What is this? Well, surely this is our replay. Yeah, nice. I am very happy with that, actually. So the takeaway from that is really the throttle control when you're cornering. So follow the driving line that I take. That's very important. I did explain that after the first left turn, you do want to start to go out wide to the left. Even though that doesn't really make sense, it makes a lot of sense for the chicane, which is the right turn into the left turn at the end. So you're taking that first turn, it's just a smooth left turn. You just take that as its own corner. You will exit wide naturally, then you turn, you steer over to the left, straighten the car out so that you're well prepared to turn right into the right turn, taking your car relatively wide. If it's too narrow, you just don't have the pace through the corners. So again, watch that, and also watch the throttle control. You don't have to do exactly what I'm doing, but you can see at which points of the corners I'm actually dipping my throttle. Just to make the turning and accelerating, that, again, the relationship between pushing the car forward and having it turn is very important. You want to reach an equilibrium, not too much of one or the other. And You could do it by having about half throttle, you know, just lowering the full throttle as you're turning. But what I actually ended up doing there was kind of tapping the throttle. And what that actually does, while you're like steering in one direction, you tap the throttle. It kind of helps push and throw your car in that direction, like by tapping it. So give that a go. Again, I didn't talk or pause during that replay so that you could go watch the telemetry for that one and kind of see what I'm doing. Like as I'm turning, I'm tapping the throttle because if I hold it, I'm not going to make the corner. I'm going to be too wide. I'm going to touch the wall. I'm going to be on the opposite side of where I want to be. But if you hold full throttle completely, your car... if you like let go of full throttle completely, then... first of all, you won't be fast enough to make the gold, and second, you still want some throttle to help push and literally push the car through the corner. Because again, especially in dirt driving, if you're not accelerating during cornering, your car is just kind of like bogging, like quite literally. It won't bog because it's a video game, like it won't bog entirely. That's not how it works, but you know what I mean? It'll just basically kill your momentum and kill your like car that's supposed to be going through the corner. Okay, so R5. Let's do a good old R5. So R5 is mostly in this first corner. It's a similar test to, what was it, R3? The one with the escort? Whatever one that had the escort in it. So staying relatively wide, get ready to throw your car in this gap. So you see I'm going to smash into the wall, but what I'm trying to do, which I'll, try again. I want to turn in so that I'm going through here. You can kind of see, you're creating a mini straight line out of this turn almost. But the thing is, if you want to get the gold here, you can't really brake. You just have to accelerate and then turn at the right time. Like this. So you can see my car is pointed in the direction I want to go. Obviously in a rally car, my car is going to be sliding this way. But my car is pointed in the direction that I want to go. There's a bit of a delay. So you'll see as we hold throttle, our car will make it through here. We'll kind of slide through here. Because again, we've accelerated and turned the car. So the car still, physics-wise, wants us to turn this way. So again, when we are actually accelerating through this bit, we want to do the same brake and flick to the left and recover by accelerating and counter steering that we demonstrated in R3. So brake and steer opposite, and it's hard to manage that. I did throw my car off way too much. So I don't think this will be the gold. It may be a silver actually. That last corner is actually important too because you have to keep that smooth. Yeah, it's a silver, which not too bad. I think again, if you can't make the golds, if you're following these videos and getting silver, that's still very good. Silver is basically a lot closer to gold than like bronze is to silver. Silver is like, oh, you know what you're supposed to be doing. Bronze is like a pass. Silver is like you're doing good. Gold is like you've basically aced what the testers wanted you to do. And this isn't really easy. It's only really easy, like, relative to R6. But this is a very tricky one, actually. So, yeah, turning in, straight line, brake, and then, yep. Try to... This is very, very difficult to get right. The ghost car might catch up on me, yeah. And see what I did there, so... Because I wasn't driving smoothly, I actually lost a lot of the time on the exit there. It's a bit like, the corkscrew. What is it? IA5, I think? Whatever the Viper corkscrew is. The first corner is like you have to execute it very well, but then you actually have to finish the test. You can't just act like you've done the test because you've aced the first corner, the tricky part. You actually have to drive smoothly at the end, and, it's actually a bit trickier than you'd think. And steering at the right time, straighten up the car, brake, and try to keep it as smooth as possible. Again, I'm not saying any of this is easy. Not sure if we get the gold here, we'll be close. It should be a 26 something. Yeah. when you get to this point, like, say if you're a tenth off, it really doesn't make sense to get frustrated. I know that sounds dumb. Like, it's probably the time you get the most frustrated, but if you're getting this close, like, you pretty much got it, as long as you just keep trying. Because in these tests, there's, like, lots of little things you can do, like, lots of room for error. And again, this exit is quite tricky, you know, you have to be very smooth. If you try to do anything fancy at the last bit, I think you just destroy your car, you destroy your time. And again, that's quite too wide, so you gotta steer a bit sharper backwards, like when you're turning left. Really U-turn it. Again, not easy, I know. And controlling something like that also is not easy. That was like... It can be really disastrous. Alright, hopefully if we keep this smooth, we can get it. Yeah, this should be the gold. Cool. Nice. Alright, awesome. Now I can show you guys how exactly I did it. Because you can see, once I've told you what to do, it still took me a fair amount of attempts. Because you're really sending that car through. And you can't really celebrate too early. There's actually... I'm not going to make this out to be easy. It's actually quite complex, but most of the focus is on that throwing into the car, and the turn and recovery. That's pretty much what the test is telling you. I kind of wish that the test, like the finish line, was maybe before the last U-turn. But I think the reason why they do that is they want to make sure that you're exiting after a good recovery rather than just fluking out like the U-turn. I feel dumb, mate. Like, I could probably just click the load replay after I get the goal, but I don't want it to load the desynced replay, which is why I save and load my own. Alright, let's start the replay and I can show you. So again, pay attention to that sequence. You can see after I've sent the car in, I counter steer quite heavily and I'm off the throttle. You really don't need to be on the throttle here because what you're doing in this section is actually like between sending the car in and turning back, you want to make sure that the car is actually quite stable because you've really thrown your car into the corner. So I counter steer and let go of the throttle. That's just to sort of neutralize the car because then now you're going to sharply steer to the left. And so pay attention to the telemetry at the bottom left here as well. So this is, you don't have to do exactly what I'm doing there. It's actually quite tricky to explain. And again, it's mostly up to you to handle the car and react accordingly, depending on what you think's going on. When you're taking that sharp U-turn, you want to dip the throttle a bit. Again, I've explained this like a few times already, but it really is just about staying on partial throttle in the rally car during a corner actually helps push your car and guide it through the corner. Too much is obviously too much, but if you're not accelerating at all, your car, like really, your car wants you to accelerate to push it forward, because again, you've got power on all wheels. So with mild throttle and turning, you will make any turn smoothly, and that's basically how you drive smoothly on the dirt. Once you're straightened up, however, you're damn right you want to be full throttle, straight line instantly. And now, just again, pay attention to focus on smooth turning, smooth acceleration. Don't do anything too fancy here. Every time I've tried to do anything fancy, like cutting this corner, it's actually cost me more time. So I think it's important to really nail the first section, everything before now, and then at the end here, you just try to take this U-turn as smoothly as possible. I'm pretty sure the test only goes out all this way to kind of, so that you're proving to the game that you've exited that first, like, sending in and back. You've exited at a decent speed, and then it's all about maintaining speed after that, rather than doing anything too fancy. And there you go, that's the gold for R5. And now we get to R6, which, oh man. Alright, so R6 is actually where things get quite complex. All this time it's been teaching us how to do things quite smoothly, with the exception of R3 and R5, teaching you how to throw the car in. Oh man, these hairpins, the tighter hairpins, you have to do basically everything at the same time. This is your ultimate rally test. R6 and R7, they're the hardest things you're probably going to want to do. Quickly, I gotta say, I kind of wish that there was a test teaching you how to do this one specifically. I know that sounds dumb, but that's actually a bit of a tricky sequence, but overall, these are what you actually want to practice a lot, because even though R7 is backwards, I don't know why it teaches you that backwards. I really don't know. If you nail R6 and R7, if you've gotten all golds up until now, R8 is nothing. Like, R8 is not scary at all. So nailing all this other stuff is very, very important. Even if you're getting silvers for all these, once you get to R8, like, that bronze is free. Like, the game knows that you're gonna have trouble with that, and it gives you an extra 8 seconds of difference, even though the gap between gold and silver is only 1.3. Gap between silver and bronze is 8 whole seconds. The game knows that this can give new players a bit of grief. Anyways, definitely not just trying to hold off doing R6. I really do want to actually do this and show you guys. It is not easy. R6, it is one of the tests. It's not quite on the levels of A7 or IA6 levels of bullshit, but you really want to do everything perfectly. And I think, actually, the hardest part of this, again, this desync bug is so funny. The hardest part of this is the final corner. The final corner of this is really difficult. R7 doesn't have this problem. It's not as hard. So, for doing these hairpins, I have to really show the telemetry, the inputs on the replay to show you exactly what you should be doing, the exact sequence of throwing the car in, pushing it through. What I want you to pay attention more to as I get to the telemetry is, I guess, the line you want to be taking. So again, we have emphasis on being on the outside, turning in, and then back on the throttle. You can see there, if I'm on the throttle too early and not steering, my car straightens up into the wall, which is not good. There I tap the brake, but again, I have to really show you the telemetry when we get the gold to really show you what I'm doing. Plus, this isn't good anyway. It really isn't. I don't think there's any possibility this is actually golds. This last corner, again, you have to do really perfectly, and it's quite blind. Almost got the silver, actually. I mean, it wasn't terrible. It really wasn't like dog shit or anything, but it's this is really not good enough for this test. You really have to do this properly. So, flicking to the left, tap the brake, accelerating, and then like counter steering to straighten up. Sharp turn, brake, accelerate, and then like again, when you throw you actually, as you're accelerating and your car's drifting into the corner, you counter steer. You steer the opposite of the way you're turning to straighten the car up. That's a skill you really need to learn for these sorts of things. And again, like the counter steer, I have to show you the telemetry after the replay to really show you what I mean. Not bad. Not even a 10th off the gold. And again, if you get this close, do not get pissed. It's the last thing. It's the worst thing you can do is get impatient when you are so close. You should be more confident the closer you get, you know? Even if you fuck up completely like I did. You really, just keep at it, man. Just keep at it. and enjoy the sneezing sounds of the turbo. I am driving terribly. It's really not worth continuing that. When you have the ghost car, you have to be a bit more fussy about your restarts. And you notice at this point, when you kind of, like, when you understand what to do, it's really just about the execution. And the more you attempt and the more you are paying attention to your car and consciously thinking about the mistakes you make, you can avoid making those mistakes, or at least try. I know I'm not doing the best job right now, but I did say that this is a difficult test. It's not complete bullshit, but it is difficult, so I'm going to turn off the ghost car there. I even get like a realistic license plate on this car, I only just realized that. I tapped the brake too early, and again, I have to show you the actual inputs after a goal to really demonstrate the correct way to do it. It's not easy to explain, and again, it's not an easy test at all. So I do apologize if it's a waste of your time. You can skip forward to when I do get it. Hopefully it's not too long. And again, I do want to demonstrate as well, even though I've got all the golds in this game, like it doesn't mean I'm some godlike player who's going to get the golds first time or anything. And, you know, I think if you understand that I struggle with R6 more than the other ones, then you know to not be so hard on yourself if you can't get this one. It is a difficult test. Straightened up too early there. I don't know if I can recover this, but we'll see. Yeah, I'm just going too wide. You really want to flick your car into the corner. And I know it's easier said than done, it really is. I'm not even applying my own advice that I've been saying for a while. Is like, you do want to go into corners basically from the opposite side, so you just have a lot more room to, you know, dive in. I say that and I'm way behind. You may not have sensed it, but I actually touched the wall there. Touching the wall is never good. I mean, unless you're on a street track. Like, you're on IA6 and it's literally impossible to get that gold in, like, automatic unless you touch the wall. Like, no joke. Not easy, you know. Really, it's not. The more you do this, though, you will get better. Like, you'll eventually get it. It's like, think of those, I don't know, just a simulation where eventually you are going to get it. I'm actually ahead, holy shit. So we just need to perfect this last bit, which is easier said than done. Oh, that's bad. That's very bad. Oh, man. That's what I mean. The last turn is a real killer, even though the whole thing seems difficult. Ah, the last turn is trickier than you'd think. This is not good, but whatever. Yep. Now it's terrible. Get in, tap the brake, back on the throttle, counter steer. Turn in, flick the brake, hold the throttle, counter steer. Oh, too wide. Alright, this is make or break, do or die. That was actually worse, I'm shocked. Because that last corner was devastatingly bad. We just need to keep up and then nail the last corner and we got it. Do what we've done 10 times already. But then the last bit, we gotta really close it and finish it off correctly. Whoa! Alright. It's just so tricky, you know, lining this up. And again, if you see the ghost in front of you by like a few tenths, yeah, just restart. Hopefully this is it. Hopefully this is it. We just need to nail this last bit. Well, I say that, and I did it fucking horribly, so that's great. That last turn. It really is a killer. They should really, like, I don't know. I guess because they only have 8 tests, they can't teach you everything, but they really should kind of teach you that corner before you do this. Because you get to that point, and you're like, how do I do this? You know, it's tricky, it's tricky, it's tricky. Should be okay. Okay, it's okay. That was not good though. Not good at all. Yep. That exit was good, just the rest of the test was not. But that last corner was okay. The trick is, like, the last corner is a lineup. You want to exit straight. You want to get around the corner and exit with your car pointed directly towards the finishing line. Again, I know it's way easier said than done. I really do know this. I'm trying my best to get this done for you guys in a reasonable time. Because you can see that. Oh man, it's just not good enough. Half a second off. Not good enough. Holy crap. I am... Sometimes the game doesn't fail you even if you slam into the wall, which is interesting. So if you ever want to turn the demo car off, like if it's blocking you, it's just a select button. These turns aren't really good, honestly. I'm getting better at this last corner, and I just have to do the rest of it normally. This is why R6 is so difficult. Too slow. Again, if you slow your car down too much, that's pretty much the equivalent of getting bogged there, you know, when I'm, like, at that low speed and no throttle. This is not good, but again, we turn on the ghost. Yeah, it's bad. I feel so sorry. I definitely have to put in a timestamp for this to tell you when I've done it, or just maybe render this whole thing and edit it out. I don't really know how much I want to render a whole hour of footage, to be honest. I'm just hoping this is it. Really? Okay. That's so bad. If you full on 180, you're not smooth enough. The game just says, fuck you. And again, you don't really want to be on the inside there. It's bad. Really not respecting the time, how good it was when I did it. And if the sneezing noise of the engine is pissing you off, believe me, I know, I am wearing earphones. Not a bad exit. I don't know if I can actually get this right now, but we'll see. Ooh, we did it! Finally, holy shit. Oh, I did not expect that to get it, but... Finally, God. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry it took so long, but... if it's any consolation, if you're struggling on this, well, look at how much time... It took me longer to do this than pretty much like everything else combined, it feels like. Feels like I was doing that for like 20 minutes straight. Alright. Replay time, and again, I will show you the whole thing. Just look, pay attention to the telemetry, and then I try not to stop or comment on this during the thing, because I was basically doing that the whole time. And there's the gold. So funny enough, those first two corners were actually pretty bad. The third corner, I would say, was pretty good, quite smooth. That final corner, though, I think that has to be the most important corner of this whole test. And I think I honestly nailed it. I don't think you could do that corner much better than I did. Again, not just saying that to brag, but that corner was done well enough that it really compensated for the first couple corners really not being so fantastic. See if I can load this up again. If the game doesn't let me, then I won't be able to do it, but... we can do a commentary on it. So again, you can go back to that part where you can see the inputs, the accelerator, brake, and steering. That might give you a good indicator of the, like, the sequence, or just, what's the word I'm looking for? The order of inputs, I guess. For lack of a better term. So you can see I hold throttle and then I'm steering left as I'm holding the accelerator, so that's sending my car through, and then I let go of the accelerator so that my car turns more, and then as I'm turning and I'm at a lower speed, that's actually when you want to get back on the throttle. Again, said it 50 times before, but you want to help the car get through the corner, so that pushes you forward with all four wheels. And why I slam the brake is because as you're turning, when the car's like, I call it neutral when you're not accelerating or braking, your car's just turning and sliding. As you brake sharply, the weight of your car shifts to the front, which is where your your front wheels, they're steering. So if you do this while you're steering sharply and you hold the brake, when you're doing this slide in, it just helps your car turn into the corner. Now I'm letting go because if you hold the brake, you're just going to obviously stop to a dead still. And with this flick, you can see my car is barely going. Like, this is probably a bit early, too early. That's why I touched the wall here, and it's not very good. Again, like, you just have to keep doing this and just hopefully get better over time to do it perfectly. But now you can see I'm back on the throttle, because if you're not and your car is sideways, you will bog. You would have seen that if you're watching all the footage where I was failing. You can see sometimes I get to this point and my car is just going 0Ks and I'm pointed towards this fence. That is really bad. You still want some speed, so that basically what's going on is when you throw the car out and you're accelerating, your car is like being thrown through and all your tires are spinning forward, gaining that traction back. So once you get traction, you actually start accelerating. I'm sorry, I know this is complex. It probably doesn't sound like I'm making a lot of sense. I'm really trying my best to explain how this works. But really throwing the car through, going back on the throttle, what this is going to do is, as our tires are spinning forward, once our car actually reaches a point where it catches grip, we start moving forward. A lot of rally driving not only is about reactions after the fact, but sending the car through and then kind of adapting and reacting to how your car gets like sent through the corner. And you can see after I hit that wall, I am steering to the right as my car is going forward. I don't really want to turn towards the right. I just want my car to stop turning inwards. And then you can see, so that I'm not steering too far to the right, because I do 100% want my car to be here on the left side of the road before turning into the right. Now I'm just steering to the left so that I'm not going too far to the right. And again, this corner is not very good. You can see I haven't let the car turn towards the way I want to go before I get back on the throttle. So my car's gained grip back now, but I'm actually pointed I pointed this way. My car is going to drive straight into this way rather than that way where I wanted to have my car pointing before I get back on the throttle. So I'm forced to just steer sharply to the right. And now suddenly I have to counter steer. And then keep my car on this side of the road so that I can do this wide again. Again, I think this corner was pretty good, so you can see a lot smoother. So you see how my car is pointed this way and back on the throttle? Now I can just react. Like, I can steer to the left, kind of. What I'm doing is, this is pretty much instinctual, like, reacting to where my car is. And then, so now this last corner is super important. It is, in my opinion, it's so much harder than the previous sequence entirely. You want to basically do what you've been doing, but then you want to have your car angled, lined up so that you're pointed towards the exit as you exit this corner. And then you want to sharply counter steer so that your car stays straight. Again, look at the telemetry, look at the bottom left inputs. So even though you can't really see the finishing line, you can kind of see what's going on here, right? My car is actually pointed directly to the finishing line, even though this fence is in the way. But because I've swung my car through this corner, my car is going to keep veering to the left. So I'm counter steering now so that as my car gets sent through, I'm straightening the car up. Otherwise, if I don't counter steer, I either spin out or just, like spin out in a way where my car is just spinning like inwards, like I'm just steering. The car shouldn't be steering anymore. Already, like before you actually, this is why rally is so hard to people who aren't familiar with it, because see how I'm, instead of like being lined up this way and steering to the right, I'm flicking the car through and then straightening the car up so that when the send of the car finishes, I'm lined up perfectly how I need to be. And then, so now I'm steering to the right. Again, I cannot really demonstrate this to you. This is pure just me reacting. Like, this is just my thumb, my brain reacting to what I think is going on based on the car's behavior. That's something I can't really teach you. So for R6, you really need to practice this a lot, especially this last corner is going to cause you a lot of grief. It is quite advanced. R6 is probably the most advanced rally test there is. But you can see at the end it pays off to do a fancy trick like that, because that last little stretch, I'm just accelerating straight towards the finishing line. And that's the R6 gold. Again, I apologize it took so long, like half an hour or whatever, but it really is difficult. R7, it's no kinch either. It's not too easy, but it is a bit easier than R6. The main difference here is that you're taking the hairpins while everything's like on a downward slope. So yeah, R6 has that last corner that's actually deceptively tricky, but this doesn't really have that. This is bad already. Touching the wall. I mean, there was no way this was winning gold anyway, so it's giving it a bit of practice. This first corner, again, anytime a test has a difficult first little corner, you may as well send the car through, because if you fail it, you can just try again instantly. And again, like, if you perfect the first little bit, it gives you a tiny bit of wiggle room to do the rest without failing. Silver, maybe? It's a gold, what the hell? I mean, as I told you, so... See, even though R6 takes you so long, like, after you've done that and you've nailed it, you become scarily good at this stuff without trying. Like, it's actually... You would never think it would actually do that. Like, I know a lot of people think just a license test in these games are, like, a massive chore. But they actually really... Like, if you refine them, you actually... Your driving improves so much. Like, you wouldn't even realize until you start really trying to gold this stuff. And it's a huge boost for your confidence. So again, let's have a look at how we do this exactly. Again, this first corner is very important. Oh shit. No, I did the thing, and now I can't load a replay. Oh, I'll try again. I hate this game sometimes. Let's just do a live redo. So, yeah, sharply steer in. Don't want to be too... I really don't think you want to be too far to the left at the end of that. So, a bit of a sacrifice of speed might be a good idea, so that you're better lined up to do this. Really too wide there, but whatever. Look at that car drift. Look at that demo. Maybe just sending it through is good. I am too far to the right. To the left, rather. Why did I have to restart this? I could have just shown you that gold. I really would have liked to show you that gold. But I accidentally hit start, and the the replay button. I don't know what's going on with it. Too wide. Because I have to show you the inputs, like I really do, so you actually get what to do. Without that, it's kind of pointless. I really hope this doesn't take me, like, half an hour now. Like, R6 did. I can't believe it. I really can't believe I did that, and now I have to do all this again. That was a bit of a fluke though, it really was, but it was a good demonstration of how to do the test, so... Good enough is good enough, honestly. Alright, just watch the replay. In case his button breaks, I'll do the no pause, no commentary one this time so you can see the inputs, because that's very important. I think the real takeaway from this is actually a lot of the rally, apart from, you know, the really tight ones like R6, is mostly about car control. You can see my line there isn't very good. Like, the more experience you get, you kind of understand how important the racing line is. However, if you're off the racing line, if you recover and steer as well, you can still get the gold. So again, this R7 isn't like ultra easy or anything, but compared to R6, it's really like not that difficult. It's a bit generous. I don't even think the first gold that I got was particularly that good, but it cleared the gold by over a 10th, so there is your replay. Thank God I managed to do that again before it took me too long. Okay. R6, okay, sorry, R8. So if you've nailed R6, you've done the toughest part of R8. So I can demonstrate, like, or show you R8 finally. And there's only a few things in this test that you haven't done that you really need to worry about. So this section is backwards, but again, if you've nailed R6 and R7, you know how to take hairpins in a rally car now. This is just whatever it is. Again, I have mentioned this before, but if you don't get a good first corner, not that this is ultra difficult, but you may as well just take the best possible first corner. So maybe having like... just doing laps and saving whatever replay you have and playing against that ghost, even if you're like a few seconds off, is good. Because you can still compare your early time. After you exit this, you can carry this like long winding corners. Again, something I wish they taught you a bit more about how to take. Because the trick for these long, like these really wide turns is that if you turn too sharply, you lose speed. If you turn too wide, you're not doing the corner efficiently. So again, these wide turns are very much about the relationship between turning and speed. This chicane, I don't know what the hell is going on here. Chicane, hairpin chicane, whatever the hell this is. Just, I guess, yeah, it's like a hairpin into a chicane, into a hairpin, or something ridiculous like that. So this is a bit tricky. So when you're doing this, you are kind of drifting in a way that your car is turning a bit more than 180 degrees so that you turn into this, and then this is actually... the exit is actually 180 degrees if you think about it. So this first hairpin, you're kind of going maybe like 210, 220, something like that. Not quite. Maybe, yeah, almost 270 on it if you think about it, if you look at it. But then after that, it is a 180. And again, the exit speed is super important because if you look at a section like this isn't really, like, all you're doing here is carrying speed. And then once you get to this bit, you're basically just like, you want an R6. A silver R6 is good enough. And then after this is a section you haven't really done yet. It's tricky. It's deceptively tricky. Because what it is you're on tarmac for this last bit. And you're basically driving a four-wheel drive racing car with, like, loose suspension on a track. Like, with rally tires. It's really weird. Rally tires really don't have a lot of grip on the tarmac. So driving on the tarmac, even though it feels safe, it's actually a bit trickier after you've been nailing all this stuff. But anyway, look, let's just get into the goddamn test right now. I've been rambling on for like 2 minutes at this point. So again, quite wide, and then brake, turn in. accelerate and counter steer, and if you make a mistake early on, it's not a big deal. You can just start all over again. And again, I mentioned this many times before, but on a big test like this, helpful in S2, not S2 specifically, but in, I mean, S as well. You really want to nail all the early stuff as much as possible so that you have a bit of wiggle room. For example, if you're like having an emergency near the end, you can slow down and take it a bit more carefully. For a big winder like this though, I don't really think you should be trying to outright gold it straight away. Just try to be as smooth as possible and give yourself like a decent lap replay to run against. So this is again, deceptively tricky because you actually want to turn in a manner that you don't lose too much speed. Also very tricky because you haven't been taught how to do this yet. Spin out entirely. Funny enough, if you do this lap like well enough, you can actually spin out there and get a goal. Like I think I've actually done that before. Not too confident on these, but again, I did say I just wanted to get a lap in. So it's probably better to drive conservatively until you're more comfortable with the track. And even that, like, that sequence of hairpins, even though you've done R6 and R7 enough to get the golds, you haven't done that specific section, because R7 was that part backwards. Again, I don't really know why they don't get you to do that part forwards if they're going to get you to do the whole lap here, but whatever, it's Gran Turismo. Another example of that is IA8. That's the test that gives people a lot of grief. I actually like that test a lot. For some reason I end up like, I'm pretty good at that test, so I don't mind it much. Relative to other tests, I find that one a bit easier than a lot of other people do. But the interesting thing about that test is that you literally never need to do that sort of driving in this game, like you just don't. Anyway, here's where all of your R6 refinement comes in handy. You don't have to be intimidated by this section, because you know what to do. I think we're looking at a silver lap, maybe? We'll see. Yeah, very tricky part. Very tricky. So once you're on the tarmac, get ready to... Your car will behave differently. Very differently. So, smooth, not too... You can't full throttle when turning, really, or you just destroy your momentum. Here, though... Yeah, see? Really have to be careful on the tarmac, because you still want to carry like a good pace. And as I mentioned before we started this test, four-wheel drive with 50-50 front and rear power, rally tires, because you're on a rally track, your car really doesn't drive that well on the tarmac, it just doesn't. And again, with the way that rally cars are set up, the suspension is very loose, the ride height is very high, so you really, like, your car's just not set up to drive on tarmac at all. It really isn't. But it's fine, because that lap was pretty pathetic anyway. I did say that is a tricky section, and they don't teach you how to do it, which they really should. I do really like the license tests in these games. I mean, I wouldn't make all these tutorials if I didn't like them. I do, like, I like having another reason, another excuse to do them. And the AI in this game, like, really, it's not engaging to race against anyone in this game. Especially when most of the time it's smarter to just have a better car. Like, buy your upgrades and just be faster. So the only like legitimate competition, or like when I feel like I'm being challenged, is by doing these license tests. We'll be a bit smoother here, or at least try. I know I'm in auto, but staying in second there is very good. You really don't want to drop to first. I think that's how you spin out, or, you know, bog yourself, basically. You also, like, you could theoretically wall ride that, but I just don't know why you would do that, especially if you've golded R6. This, you know, it turns from being the hardest part of the track into just, you know, kind of like... Again, that's me just being shit and failing, but it's a lot less intimidating if you've nailed R6, you know, to do this. And again, we're back on the tarmac. Maybe I should just be a bit less greedy than last time. Never full throttle when cornering. Play it now to straighten up. You want to, like, cut through here. Your car will slide a bit, but that's good because it helps you slide into the corner. So yeah, not really a good lap, but this will take you a lot of practice. I know it seems scary to be like 3 seconds off, but or 2.5, but because it's so long, you have so much more room for improvement. Probably just turn the car off. This is dog shit, but... You'd be surprised, you can catch up. It's possible. Now we really can't, though. That slide out. Awful. Awful. So what I mean about the tarmac driving, like, it's actually very important. And again, like, if you're full throttle when drifting out like that, because you have power on the front wheels, you don't really turn well. So, kind of have to do, like, part throttle. Really not good to touch the inner wall like that. And again, I know I'm, I seem like I'm not driving that well. But, you know, why lose patience? Why lose your shit? If you've golded the previous test, you can gold this one. You just have to string through the full lap. Gotta string it all together, and you'll get it. You know you're capable of it. If you've gotten all the previous golds, you know this is coming to you eventually. You know what, I am going to demonstrate the wall ride here, or the risk, which either I'll fail instantly, or you'll see... It doesn't even make that much of a difference, so... See, like, if you just do that corner properly, it's probably about the same as if you wall ride it. I think we're actually ahead now. That's cool. Yeah, we're way ahead. I don't know what the hell happened there, but we must have screwed up the corner very badly. And that's like a whole second. Again, not full throttle here. You really don't want a full throttle there. And then cut through the right. You car will slide a little bit, but it's good. If I didn't touch the inner wall there, it'd probably be a gold. Not quite. Yeah, but... See, we're getting closer. We cut a whole second and a half off. Just do that 1 or 2 more times and you got the gold. I count that as a silver. It's pretty much a silver. Oop. Can't correct too early. Once you start getting closer to the gold, you know, every little bit on the tarmac matters a lot. Alright, that's pretty bad, but not catastrophically bad, so we'll see how this goes. That is catastrophically bad. Okay. Can even use that tarmac to help you slide a bit, because if you aren't sliding, well, car's not really keen on like accelerating and turning at the same time on tarmac. It's just not gonna do that as much as you'd like it to. This seems okay, not really perfect, but without even touching the inner wall, just doing it smoothly is good enough, I would say. We're actually ahead now, which is good. And again, there is a lot to be said about this corner, getting it right. Definitely have to like full throttle entirely. That is really disappointing because that was all very good on, until that point. Man, this is going to be a fun lap to look at the replay and analyze after I'm done with this. Usually, when you're closer to the gold, being even usually is good enough for the earlier sections, because again, I've told you about the philosophy of nailing the early stuff. With, like, if you don't, you just don't continue. So, and if you're doing that, trying to get the gold, you'll notice most of your replays are like insanely competitive early on, and then kind of collapse towards the end. So I won't wall ride this time. I don't think you need to, it's just something you can do if you want. You can see how, like, I don't think you should actually wall ride. I really don't. Really gotta nail this last section to get this gold. I really do. Give that bit of slide. I don't think this will gold. Yeah, it won't. So we are now 1 second off the gold. Which is, yeah, again, I know it's a full second, but this is a whole lap, so there's quite a lot of opportunity to save this last second. And, again, you'll probably go through the same process of just get your lap in and trim a bit of time each time you go through. I think it's the way to do it. There are simple things like that, like you don't even really know you have that time save until you just go for it and you get it. Especially, I'm no fucking Michael Schumacher, you know. I don't really know exactly what the best line is right out of the box. You have to just keep doing things until, you know, the evidence is clear when you're in front of your ghost car that you're doing it right. The ghost car is the best thing. It really is. It's your best tool for improving. Nothing else in the game really gives you any feedback. But when you cut ahead of the ghost car, you know you've improved a lap, like it's, or a corner rather. It's the best feedback, especially in the license tests. Pretty good so far. Slightly touched the wall on the exit, which killed a bit of my speed, but still good. I'm honestly trying to just not lose concentration here, because I've done this so many times that your brain just kind of starts to melt when you get to these parts, like for the 50th time over. And really controlling these exits, it's so important. It really is. Trying to get back on the throttle as early as possible. And again, these last sections are so important to nail. I cannot stress this enough. The tarmac. Turning in, because you really do want to be grazing this inside. And yeah, see, this last section is really not good. So that car is going to catch up, and we've lost. We had a gold until we got on the tarmac, and we basically just lost a whole second to the end there. This, like, tarmac really doesn't fuck around. I would say the tarmac is just, it's not the hardest part of the run, but it's deceptively difficult, so. As I said, like, if you... Already at this point, if I collected the best segments from each replay that I did, it probably would have golded by now. So, again, the test is less about you've got to do all these things good. It's more about you've got to do all these things in the one run decent enough. But again, like, if you stick at it, assuming you know what to do, you'll eventually get it. And there's really no point getting frustrated. If you are, like, it's acceptable, but you probably... I don't know, you don't need to be too frustrated at yourself, because the tests are not easy. If you are getting frustrated, maybe take a break. Maybe stretch a bit, actually. Stretching out your fingers will probably help you a little bit. Oh man, that always stings, but again, you can't get too pissed off at yourself, or else you won't be able to get it. Like, you do need to be kind of stoic and clear-minded to just focus on what you're doing. And you might not think, but, like, unless your brain is actually completely fading and numbing, generally you just naturally get better at doing this stuff. You naturally get better at, like, using your reactions and just the inputs you take. If you make a slight mistake, if you go slight too wide, correcting yourself, really important skill. You see here, like, that last thing, our momentum died, so exit speed, see how important it is? We were behind this car until this straight because we had a better exit. So... pretty happy with that corner. This one is always tricky. And we'll try not to fuck this up at the end here. And we did it. We barely did it, but you know what? Gold is a gold. You might even have less of a gap between your finish time and the gold when you finally get it. But we did it. We did it. Only took me an hour and a half. Alright, so save this replay and load it. Even though I don't even know if we have to do this, I just don't want to load a desync replay and then bug the button so it doesn't load anymore. Just again, the game's like 20 years old. I think one really humbling thing about this game is, again, you notice how good the graphics are and everything. Like, it was huge for the time. The game still looks good enough to play without really grating your eyes. But this game doesn't even let you adjust the volume. You can turn sound or music on or off for the menus, replays, and the race. But you cannot adjust the volume of anything, so it's either on or it's off. That shows you how old this game is. Bless it. But yeah, let's watch the replay. I'm actually going to mute my microphone for this so you can watch with the inputs. Again, really important to not touch the walls. I mean, at any point, but extra careful on the tarmac at the end. So, now we'll do the commentary. So again, the thing about, you see this sort of texture, this is technically dirt. You'll have dirt grip. The trick is, you know, if you don't have your car, like, all four wheels on it, then it only changes the grip to dirt for the tires that are touching it. And again, I know that sounds a bit complex. It kind of is, but you got to imagine that basically your front left and your rear left are on normal tarmac, whereas your front right and rear right are on the dirt here. And there's really no other situation when your car behaves like this. So really just in the vacuum of these turns, just be careful and know that those two inner tires can skid out. And also, I've mentioned before the setup of the rally cars. The ride height is quite high and the suspension's quite loose. So, and it's designed that way purposely to get grip on the dirt. But what this means is you get quite a bit of body roll. And again, this is kind of a problem for a car that is also four-wheel drive, driving on tarmac, where you have power at the front wheels, which prevents you from steering while, like, you know, the more you accelerate, especially with these, you know, 300 horsepower turbo cars, trying to turn when you have body roll, it's just not going to work. So you need to be ready to let go of the throttle or just dip the throttle. Like that, as you can see there. If I stayed on full throttle, I'd be way too wide. Even there, you can see I'm quite wide, and I have to I'm forced to steer to the left. So I've mentioned that before, but steering sharply to the right at the right time and then tapping the brake so that you steer even sharply into the corner. Then you get back on the throttle, and depending on how your car is lined up, you will either counter steer the other way to straighten it up, or you will keep steering into the corner if you were not going to make the corner, like if your car's going out too wide. And for example, you can see where my car's pointed. It's pointed here. I don't want it to be pointed here. I want it to be pointed this way. Especially I want to be on the outside of the corner as well. So I'm going to tend to steer strongly until my car's straight, and then by the point my car's here, you can just straight line this. You could tap right and steer back, flick the car through, but you notice that pretty much my inputs are never exactly the same. And again, it's purely down to natural driving, and you're going to make some mistakes. You're not going to line things up perfectly. I mean, if you were, you wouldn't be watching this video, to be honest. You probably would have just got the golds by now. So this is, again, demonstration of if you don't do things perfectly, it's down to your reaction and how you just handle and steer the car in a situation where it's not exactly where you want it to be. You can see there, I'm on the throttle way too early. And that's why I go super wide here. You really don't want to be on this side at all. You want to be on the right side to, again, or even in the middle of this, and then you can slightly steer to the right and back out. But if you're always on the, if you're on here, look, it's a bit dodgy. So again, this is probably a bit trickier than you'd think. Because obviously it's full throttle and you only have to steer to the left. There's not much else to it, but you'll see. If you're steering sharply while accelerating there, and you really don't have as much grip as you'd think, your tires are actually technically spinning. You just don't hear them spin on the tarmac because it's the dirt. So you just hear the the rumble and the flicking of dirt behind you. So it's actually harder to tell. You have to kind of go by feel. Especially if you have this up. If your car's not gaining speed, it's because you just don't have that grip. And that's what I tried to make a point before about the relationship between accelerating and turning has to be spot on. This wasn't even dead accurate, but again, this the part up here where I was way too far to the left, it's a good demonstration about how you don't have to do things perfectly and you can still gold it because it's a full lap, so it's a bit generous. Again, you can see I am throwing the car around in a fashion so that I'm at the outside pointed this way, because then you can go widely into this. And, oh yes, I have, again, mentioned this many times before, but look at this long straight, okay? This is all just pure acceleration, slight taps of turning, but the only thing that's going to give you time on this long straight is the exit speed of this chicane. So, even, it's worth sacrificing a bit of speed on this bit, and you don't have to do it lightning fast, so that you can set it up perfectly here to have a perfect hairpin here, so that your exit speed is very high. Again, I did bump the wall slightly. Probably would have been, I would say it would be very good if I didn't touch the wall, but it's still good enough with a slight touch of the wall because it's kind of bumping me forward. It wasn't a catastrophic wall touch or anything, so usually tests like this you can get by. But again, it's just very important to have exited at a high speed because otherwise you never get this time back. And again, as I've said, it's really, you can't put NOS on the car randomly. You're always just going to be full throttling this, so really the only difference of how fast you go through this whole bottom line, or this whole bottom, it's not really a straight, but it's straighter than any other part of the track except that main straight at the start, is your exit speed. So again, this hairpin you want to smooth in, slow in, fast out. It's slow and fast out in racing is always better than fast in, slower. It's always better. And it's purely because of the amount of acceleration you're doing after, and it's the most important when you have a long straight that's just pure acceleration. Probably don't need to say anything about this. I've talked about R6 to death. That took me half an hour to do, so... I will just mention again one more time that instead of specific inputs, I am throwing the car in and then kind of reacting to how well my car is positioned during the corner. If it gets thrown too far out or too far in, I am going to steer in or counter steer accordingly, and accelerate when I think the time is right. And again, you also notice quite often that when I'm turning and putting the accelerator, it's about 3/4 throttle. I do try to be about half. 3/4 is probably good enough. Again, turbo, the thing is about turbo is that the more throttle you have naturally, the more power you get out of the turbo, which makes sense. But if you're at like 3/4, the turbo is probably at about half to 2/3. So overall, it's a meaningful difference to not be full throttle or to be full throttle. It actually... it has a bit more of a difference than you might think on most cars, especially naturally aspirated, like all the V8s that are just... Any naturally aspirated car is just completely linear in power, whereas turbo is the more you put in, the more you get out, and the less you put in, turbo has even less of an impact. So I know it sounds like it's still linear, but it's more volatile and subject to sensitivity of touch. And again, another time where it's like I never really full throttle. I am trying to get about midway, because what that does is just help your car get through the corner. If you don't apply the throttle there at all, your car will just it just won't be pushed through the corner well enough. Because again, you're taking these corners, like you're turning the car completely sideways. If your wheels aren't spinning forward, you're just going to completely spin out. So you want to keep that forward momentum going through a turn. Which is why you accelerate while turning in a rally car. You can see, look, as soon as I get on this dirt bit, I am very careful with the throttle. And the reason why is, well, first of all, if you, once you're on the dirt, you could lose all your grip and spin out. But if you have full throttle here, this turn, it's wider than you'd think. This is more, this is even more than a 180. You really can't be too greedy on this turn. And you have to really be set up for the little chicane at the end. Really do not fuck around with this section, I'm telling you. So yeah. Your car also will slide, and it's up to you to control the slide. If your car isn't really sliding, you have to slow down a lot to make the corner, because again, if you're full throttling, you just won't make the corner. Your car will be way too wide. This turn is deceptively sharp. So at this point, it's not really worth turning too far to the left and right. I'm still correcting my steering, but... oh man, you do not want to touch the wall here. So you can see I cut the dirt, and this will actually... you'll slide out a little bit, but this is actually what you want, because if you didn't slide here, you might actually go too wide and smash into this wall here. And, oh man, I can't tell you how careful you need to be. You don't want to brake, that will kill you, kill your run. But letting go of the throttle while turning slightly, even for a 20th of a second, I'm telling you, it can be the biggest difference. Trying to apply as much throttle as the end without carking it completely. And there you go. There's your gold everything. All gold everything. Rally license exam. I'm sorry the music's disabled, but... yep, there you go. And you get a prize car, of course, when you do golds for any license. All golds for any license. And in this case, you get the Bug-Eye WRX STI rally car. And oh, it's pretty good. So realistically, any of these prize cars that you get at the start of the game are good. Even the old gold B, it's good enough. It's better than any starter car you can buy. The all S's is probably harder than all rally. That gets you the Dodge Viper prototype, which is pretty much, it's just a race car. So interesting thing about these rally cars is, again, They're set up like rally cars, but you don't have to set them up that way. So we're gonna do a quick post-video rally license all gold celebration by me showing you how you can set this car up to be a kind of pseudo race car. You can see I actually, in this save file, I must have not really done anything too heavy. How much have I, let's see quickly. I haven't even got the A license in this. So that'll be a bit interesting to try and demonstrate what races I can do when I can't really enter any anyway, but I just loaded the save file anyway. But look, it'll be a pretty good indicator of how powerful your car can be relative to the other cars. So, if you notice in the rally cars, all the fancy shit pretty much has been bought for you. You can't really buy any meaningful upgrades. However, what you can buy are turbo kits. This car, you actually got turbo kit stage 3, which, if you look at that horsepower value, 523, this sets you up to be pretty much a race car. However, say if this is the first car you've unlocked, you can only afford turbo kit stage 2. You don't even need to buy this right now, so you could save up. But I just think value-wise, stage 3 probably isn't worth it. Because, like 45, you're probably better off spending 45k on a car that can do different races for you. What I'm basically demonstrating is, say if this is what you've unlocked at the start of the game, you can take this into the rally and win all the rally cars and get a bunch of other cars. I'll run through this all pretty quickly. I just kind of wanted to show you that for rally cars, all this drivetrain, handling stuff, it's all been bought for you. It's funny because Gran Turismo 4 rally cars don't come with dirt racing tires or snow tires. You have to fork out like 22k for them. It's total bullshit. But in this game, you have dirt racing tires purchased, and also the rally cars have medium racing tires, which make them perform so much better. Medium racing tires in general are the best upgrade you could buy theoretically, because just your grip, the tire's grip, improves every aspect of the car. Accelerating, braking, and turning. But as you can see, you can't buy any of this other stuff. It's already purchased for us. Even the variable center differential. Again, I don't really know why they do this sometimes in the programming. It shows you that it's there and you can't purchase it, but the reality is this is already purchased for you. In the same way that, you know, this is the triple plate clutch. I was going to say triple clutch plate, but that doesn't really make sense. Anyways. Let's go race. It's going to be a bit overkill anyway, but I have to really go into the beginner four-wheel drive because I need an A license to do like anything else that's meaningful. But I will mention, okay, so this is a turbo car, it's four-wheel drive, so you can use this car for all four-wheel drive challenges, all turbo challenges. For the turbo test course, you just change the gear ratios. I can maybe show you how to do that unless I forget, but you just change the gear ratios to increase your max speed. If you've purchased Turbo Stage 2 and you increase your max speed, you will beat everyone on the test course. But I do want to demonstrate how to set the car up. I'll even show you on Special Stage Route 11 to really demonstrate how you can turn a rally car into like as I said, a pseudo race car. Which is cool because this game doesn't have... no, it does have the Impreza race car, the LM race car. It doesn't have a Lancer one though, even though 4 does. And again, like, look, we're against the fucking Story X4 or the Syrian, whatever it's called in your region, but... Alright, setting. So, spring rates need to be a lot tighter. I don't know if this is too tight, but for street racing, you do want it to be quite tight. Ride height, so this is, yeah, very not good for, street racing. Lower this as much as possible, and you want the rear to just be... I make it slightly above the front. Doesn't matter too much. I just think that kind of keeps a car balanced when you're accelerating. Because, you know, naturally when you accelerate, it does push weight to the back of your car, even though the weight is at the front. So having the rear slightly higher than the front, I think is the way to go. Shock bound, shock rebound. Probably just leave them as they are. Camber angle, I think the best camber angle for pretty much any car, the default is 3.0 and then 1.5 to the rear. 2 and 1 isn't a bad setup, like it's still a meaningful difference. Toe angle, I always leave the toe angle at 0. Stabilizers, yeah, I think they should always be in the middle. You don't want them to be too strong or too weak. Brake balance is an interesting one. You can leave them at 9 or keep them even, whatever. Gear ratios, this is what I mentioned. If you want to increase your max speed, you can go a bit wider. I think you don't even need, like, especially if you bought the Turbo 2 upgrade, you can have a higher natural speed anyway. And another trick is that, say if you're doing the test course, instead of making your later gears wide, you actually want to make everything wide and then your higher gears tighter, because that increases your acceleration for the higher gears. If you have your 6th gear as wide as possible, you get to the 6th gear and you'll just stop accelerating, and that's really not what you want. But look, I think at least going to the middle means that you should never really reach max speed unless you're on the test course. And when it comes to the test course, that's when you can go a bit wider and change things up again. But I think this setup is good for like a neutral speed setup, especially if you bought this the Turbo Stage 2. It's just a reasonable, meaningful difference. Now we get to ASM. Always turn this shit off. Always turn your ASM off unless you're driving, like, say, a Formula 1 car or like an insanely blazing fast race car. Then it's actually useful because it won't kick in much unless you're actually going to spin out. If you're in a car that handles like quite smoothly or like a simple car, having active stability management on usually all it really does is stop you from drifting. Like, it's bad. It will just literally slow your car down for you when you drift. It'll just cuck you. TCS, I keep it 1. You can keep it at 5 if your car's like unnaturally fast, or turn it off completely. The reason why I turn it on, keep it on level 1 is that you have visual feedback when your TCS flashes. It still flashes up the same as it would at any other setting, but it slows your car down less the lower the level is. So having it level 1 means it won't really do anything meaningful except flash when it's triggering the TCS. Just gives you a bit of visual feedback. And the front distribution being at 30, you can leave it at that. I like the idea. You'd think that the lowest front distribution is the best, because theoretically, if you had 0 front distribution, you'd have 100% rear distribution and your car would just be a rear-wheel drive. This 10 and 90 is as close as you're going to get. 30 and 70, again, I say 30 and 70 because whatever this value is, the rest is going to be compensated. So if this is 10, then the rear is going to be 90, so that the total is 100. Whereas if this is 50, and the total needs to be 100, the rear is going to be 50. So this is, 50 front, 50 back, 40 front, 60 back, 30 front, 70 back, 20 front, 80 back, 10 front, 90 back. So basically this is just to change the behavior of your car so it's more like a rear-wheel drive, which is superior than a four-wheel drive for everything but, four-wheel driving. And so I am going to destroy these cars, naturally, because my car's a lot faster. But also just demonstrate about how the car drives on, again, you could theoretically unlock this as your first starting car if you just went straight into the rally. And yeah, it feels very weird driving on tarmac with racing tires. After all the rally driving, it really does, but... a car like this, it does comfortably beat all those other cars without really needing to try too hard. And even that 10% power on the front wheels, it's no joke. It means it's a lot harder to accelerate while steering than a rear-wheel drive, any FR or MR car. Give yourself a bit of time to admire your car. I don't mind the bug eyes personally. I actually like them. I prefer this car over the previous Impreza. Mostly because of the tail lights. I really like these tail lights. I really like the rear of this car. So this corner, you like accelerated this, and then let go of the accelerator, turn right, and then get back on the throttle. That's how you do that corner. The AI are really not too good at doing this sequence of cornering. But that's pretty much how you go about it, or the line you take. And again, like, doing those rally tests, even though the driving is a bit different, it teaches you a lot about, you know, as you approach the entry of a corner and you're reacting and how you control the car is very, very, very important. Some of the non-rally tests teach you that as well, like those circular tests that you do in the RX-7, and then also the circular wet track in the Corvette. They teach you a lot about following the curve and reacting to it, which is... It's an insanely important skill to refine. Because that's kind of what... Without knowing that, a mistake turns into a lost race instantly. But if you can recover, you can just keep going. And of course you get that amazing Ferris wheel in the background, pretty cool looking. This is one of the better looking tracks in the game. You gotta mind the draw distance, because back when this game came out, I mean, chibis were so small, you'd be playing this on a tiny CRT screen that you wouldn't even really notice. Another thing you can do with this, of course, before we go to the rally events, which is actually what I was going to segue into, where is it? The Boxer Spirit. This is actually probably the best car for the Boxer Spirit. You can only do, basically, you can drive Subarus or the roofs. RGT might be the better car, like when it's modified. The 3400S is also a very good car because that's useful for the convertible, or the Spider and Roadster Challenge that's called, but I mean, this is basically just an Impreza race car as far as things are concerned. So you can go ahead and do this, and these are 10k each. If I had the A license, I would probably go into these right now. It's also in the professional league. Is it? Yeah, it's here. This is still 10k. 15. But again, this is like the super speedway there. If you had the IB license right now, which I should, but I don't, you can just go into super speedway and it's 15k per race. If you had the A license, you probably, I mean, you could just go into the beginner GT championship and just, like, yeah, as soon as you got a car fast enough to do that, you could do that grinding method. Another thing you could do is, I did a whole video on this, which you've probably already seen. If you've seen this one, is, you know, the American and European Championships. So you can just beat those cars with this easily and then farm yourself the race car and then take that. It's good because the Impreza rally car prototype that you win, or any real rally car apart from the Zara, which is front wheel drive, you can use this car for turbo and four-wheel drive, and then those, either race car from the American Championship or the European Championship, you can use them for the FR and the NA Cups. Those are very, very good for getting money as well. And any of these, especially if you've gold at the rally, you should really be able to nail these. And these all give you, each of these will give you one, like a rally car as a prize, which you can choose to keep or sell. Like, say, theoretically, if you just won these and sold it, you'd be rich, but you don't really need to sell them because you have the other money farming methods, and especially if you can't buy the car in the store, you probably don't want to sell it. You can also do these wet ones. One of these, I forget which one, gives you the Zara rally car. It might just be this one. But with this setup, you'll actually be better on the wet than the rival car, especially with that turbo straight line speed. So I won't do this whole thing, but I'll just quickly do this wet race, the 2-lap one. And there's merit to doing these because, well, as I mentioned, doing any of these events will give you a rally car. Doing this wet event or the reverse one, if I'm incorrect, it's one of these two, gives you the Zara rally car, which is a front-wheel drive car, and you can use that for the front-wheel drive challenges. See, thanks to this Turbo 2, we're way faster, without even really needing to try. I mean, at this point, I'm just vibing. I got nothing to say really much that I haven't said already. I've been talking for like 2 hours straight. And this time's just flown by, honestly. But yeah, I'm not going to do the whole event or anything, because then it'd just be 10 laps of this course. Just kind of wanted to demonstrate, you know, the difference. Like, look, after coming out of golding the rally license, setting up this car, the gap is at least 15 seconds here. Might even extend to 20 when he finishes. But yeah, with that level of skill and proper setup, like, you're just ready to dominate, you know? Completely dominate. Also, that light bug in the emulator, I think, to fix that, you switch to Vulkan rendering. And then that'll fix a lot of the light issues in this game. The random, like, you know, disappearance of the glare and whatever. There you go, gap was pretty much 20 seconds. So there you go. Let me save my game before I forget, because I'm probably going to close the emulator, like, instantly. There you go. That's the rally license, even demonstrated the car for you. I hope you appreciated this tutorial, and I will see you guys in the next video, whatever that's going to be. Bye-bye.